In this demonstration, I'd like to show you how to improve your ribbed stitches in the round. Whenever you're changing colors in the round, there are some issues that come up. The one that gets the most attention is what they call the color jog or the shift. It's a step between the beginning of the round and the end of the round when we change a color. In this first example, I was working in purple, and when I went to gold, I just knitted around and I didn't do anything special so that you could see this jog. Here's the base of my first stitch in the round. Here's the base of my last stitch and my last knit stitch. You see there's a little jog. It doesn't look too bad now because I've corrected it, but if you continue doing this up your piece, that jog becomes very noticeable. And that's what we're going to be working on in this video. This second section, I did use a classic technique for removing the jog, and it is removed. And that is to knit the first stitch in the new color. And by the way, whenever you're doing striping, I even did it down here, the first round of the new color, you should always knit all those stitches regardless of whether you're doing ribbing or not. The reason being, you get what I call a peekaboo purl. And I think I have it in this example, where if you purl that first round, you get like a color pop right here between the mauve and the lime. You see that peekaboo purl. Up here, I've knit the first round and you don't get that. You get a much nicer look. So you knit that first round. But the classic solution, one of them, and there are many options out there for reducing or eliminating the jog. One of them that I like is to work the first round in the new color, in this case purple, and then when you get to the first stitch in the second round, lift the gold stitch below, the old color stitch, and knit it together with the new color, and that kind of shifts that and pulls it up to eliminate that jog. And then you go on and do your third round in the stripe. I did that twice, and that's where these green markers are. There is one issue with that, however. I'm using 3-round striping. All the stitches across the round have 3 in them, and you can specifically count them in the knit stitches. But when we do this lift and knit 2 together, we actually lose a stitch. So we only have 2 stitches as the first stitch in the round. You're going to be 1 stitch shorter than however many rounds of stripe you have. Now, if you're using 10 rounds, all the other are going to have 10, and this one's going to have 9, and you might not notice it, but for narrow stripes, it becomes visible. A method, if you're working stockinette to deal with this, is to, and it works out quite well, after you do this lift and knit 2 together, you put it back on your needle at the end of the round, you work the round, and then you knit it again. So you actually get that extra knitting of the stitch at the end of the round. However, when you do that, you're shifting the start of round up your piece every time you change colors, which you may or may not like. But for striping and ribbing, we have a really nice solution, which I've shown. I can show you right here, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And those are marked by the white. You notice that we have ribbing, we have no jog, and we have 3 stitches as the first stitch in the round. So this is what I'm going to demonstrate to you how to do right now. Okay, so I'm back, and I've knit the new color, which is going to be purple. So the first round is going to be all knit. And here's what I do with the first stitch in the round. I do go ahead and I make sure that I'm looking at the first stitch, which I am. I lift the loop, the right leg of the last color in the stripe below, and I put it on my needle. And then I knit 2 together. Okay, and here's where the little trick comes in. After I've worked it, I put it back over to my left needle. Now, I'd like to get another stitch. We talked about how we can be 1 stitch short. So if I were to go ahead and just knit that stitch, and take that off, I'd have a hole because that stitch isn't tied into the previous stitch. So that's not going to work. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tie it in before I work it with the last stitch in the round. I can go ahead and move my marker over here. I'm going to take the yarn. I've already done the lift and knit two together. I'm going to pull it to the front, and I'm going to perform a wrap around the last stitch in the round to tie this in. I'll just slip this stitch over here, put the yarn to the back, kind of like a wrap and turn, but there's no turn, and then I put the stitch back. And now whatever I do next is going to be tied in because of that wrap. So I put the stitch marker back over on the right, and now I just go ahead and work the second row as usual. I'll just go ahead and do a few stitches and we'll take a look at this. You can see now I'm not one stitch short. I have 2 stitches here all the way across. I'm going to pause the camera and I will come back and talk about options for dealing with this loop at the end of the round. Okay, so I'm back and I've worked the second round in ribbing and I'm come to my last stitch. So for the last stitch, I have this wrap that I put around to tie it in to the first stitch in the round when we were double knitting that stitch. So I have this wrap here. Now, I'm doing purls. You could leave that go and that would not be a problem. You could let it sit there. Or what you can do is knit it or purl it together. And so in order to do that, I'm just going to lift it onto my needle like that. Doesn't matter which stitch is first. And then I'm going to purl those 2 loops together. And what you get is, it's a little easier to see here, you get an extra loop on your purl, but for the ribbing, when it's, just sitting there, especially since the purl recedes, I don't think you see the difference necessarily between this and this. What you do see is that the jog is gone and you have 3 stitches in your vertical knit bar. And then you just go on and do the next round in your work. And that's all there is to that. So I hope you enjoyed this method of working ribbing. I've tried it with Stockinette. Because of having to work that loop into the work, it doesn't work too well again because it's being pulled off of this left direction. I didn't feel that it was as seamless. It might be something you could explore. I will say that for like this putter head cover, it does work well with twisted ribbing in the round. With twisted ribbing, you have the knit stitches knit through the back loop and they tend to pop a little bit and you have more definition. And so it works very well when we're doing twisted ribbing in the round as well. Thank you for watching and good luck with your knitting.